Hi everyone, so we're on to our second video, continuing with measurement, and our objectives today would be what is a parallelogram. So we're going to meet our second shape, the parallelogram, and we're also going to look at calculating the area of a parallelogram. So going right into the lesson, we're looking at the properties of a parallelogram. So a parallelogram looks like this, and the properties are it is a four-sided shape or quadrilateral. So yes, we see in the four sides right there. And it has two pairs of parallel sides. So remember the trapezium had one pair, our parallelogram has two pairs. So the opposite sides here, this length to this length, they're parallel to each other, and this length to this length, parallel to each other. Now not only are they parallel, but opposite lengths are equal. So the length from here to here is the same as the length from there to there, whereas the length from here to here would be the same as the length from there to there. We're also going to look at some of the properties of the angles within our parallelogram. So opposite angles are equal. So looking at our parallelogram here, we'd see that opposite angles are diagonally opposite angles. So if one angle is 60 degrees, the other, that's diagonally opposite, would also be 60 degrees. Similarly, this angle here is 120, and the opposite angle is also 120 degrees. And another property, consecutive angles add up to 180. So consecutive angles would be angles which are right next to each other. In other words, not opposite to each other. So let's just look at this. 60 and 120 are consecutive, and yes, they add up to 180. Similarly, 60 and 120 also consecutive and also add up to 180. So let's just go through the properties again. Properties of a parallelogram. It is a four-sided shape or quadrilateral. It has two pairs of parallel sides. The opposite lengths are equal, opposite angles are equal, and also consecutive angles add up to 180 degrees. Now that we've seen all the properties, I have a couple questions for you all. Question: do you think a square is also a parallelogram? And do you think a rectangle is also a parallelogram? So two things to think about, and let me know what your answers are. Now we're going to look at how to find the area of a parallelogram. So this is much simpler than finding the area of a trapezium. We have a labeled parallelogram here, and you see the opposite sides are parallel, and there's the letter L. L stands for the length of your parallelogram. Some examples you'll see they use the letter B. So remember, this length is the same as this length here. So if this is L, underneath there is also L. So I'm just putting it in just to be sure. Now you're seeing something that should look familiar to you. The broken line with the right angle at the bottom and the letter H. That's our perpendicular height. So I mentioned perpendicular height last time, but I didn't actually write out the word perpendicular. So I'm doing that for you all now. Perpendicular, of course, means to meet at right angles, right? So the area of a parallelogram is simply the length multiplied by the perpendicular height. You see the little diagram there for perpendicular. You don't need to put that in. You could just say, or just L by H. So you're going to look at an example. Very simply, we have our parallelogram here. Our length is 15 centimeters, whereas the perpendicular height is 8 centimeters. So the area is simply L by H, 15 for L, 8 for H, 15 by 8, 120 centimeters squared.